Dr. LaToya, can you explain why you wrote the Architect's Playbook?
Absolutely. I wrote the Architect's Playbook as a follow up to my first book that I wrote, Help My Business is Holding Me Hostage. And in that book, I tell my story in terms of what it is like to journey through entrepreneurship with experiencing burnout, loss of identity, just a general sense of just loss of control. And I honestly did that too as a follow up even to my dissertation on the entrepreneurial experience of business loss. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to speak to entrepreneurs who suffer in silence, who have struggle on the inside. I always say that there's always a story beyond what you see. And so sometimes there's so much pressure to perform that it creates a lot of different stress. And so that book really, really spoke to entrepreneurs in general. The Architect's Playbook was a follow up, I would like to say, to marketplace leaders and those who are called to represent Christ in the marketplace. And so one of the things that's absolutely amazing about the Architect's Playbook as to why it's a follow-up is because throughout my struggle of what I shared in Help My Business is Holding Me Hostage, one thing that that book does not share is that I found Jesus in my business. So it was not in a traditional setting, it was not in a traditional church, but it was just from going through all of the challenges and the stress and the pressure where I eventually found myself on my knees crying out to God because I knew that I had basically took on everything myself. So I thought that my identity was based on having a PhD. I thought it was based on having a business and just, being well connected or whatever that may look like. I looked at it from that standpoint and I thought it was just all on me. So all of the pressure to perform, it was my responsibility. But somewhere along the line, I found myself crying out to Christ because I couldn't handle it anymore. And so one of the things that I did not share in the initial book was finding Jesus. And the Architect really, really, really speaks to those faith-based believers who are in the marketplace and they need a blueprint and they need a pattern of how to perform and navigate, whether it be pressure, navigating teams, navigating, knowing, first of all, which we're going to get in today, first of all, knowing who you are, not in a system, not in an agency, not in an organization, not in a degree, but knowing who you are in Christ before you even start. And that is so important. So that's why I did that. I did that because I felt as though I made a promise to God that if he would get me out of what I was enduring in that hard place of suffering in business, that I would be a voice to entrepreneurs who sat and suffered silently and did not know what to do. And so that is the Architect's Playbook is the answer to that.
Wow. Wow. That is absolutely phenomenal. And thank you for sharing that. When you hear the word architect, right? What image or feeling comes to your mind? And how does that connect to you and how you see yourself as a leader?
That's a great question. So when I think about the architect, I think about two things. I think about the visionary. So I think about the one who has been giving a divine plan, a divine strategy to building something. And I often say that it may not be particularly a business, but what is the vision for your family? What is the vision for your children's future? What is the vision for you on your job? Maybe you're not in the business. Maybe you're not an entrepreneur. I often say that you can be totally an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is the person that shows up in the marketplace and you come with all of the creative ideas and innovation, and you bring so much life to that agency that you work for. You may have vision as a school teacher, and you are building the lives of children whom which you serve. You may have vision as the mayor of your city. And so whatever sphere or whatever place, a domain that you lead from, you must have vision. And so I think about the architect having vision, but that the architect is bold enough to build what he or she sees.
Wow. Wow. Man, already so fire. Thank you so much for sharing that, Dr. LaToya.